Welcome back to the news today. This is One on One. The Israel-U.S. alliance is considered a taboo between the governments of both countries. The economic, military, and diplomatic ties are considered in Israel as a necessary to the survival of the Jewish state. And for the United States, it's a foot inside the Middle East. One of the top experts on these relations is Jeff Daube, Israel's director of the Zionist Organization of America, who for more than 20 years has been lobbying extensively on Capitol Hill for a strong U.S.-Israel alliance. Thank you very much for coming to our studio. I think that for the last few years, you have, maybe not even for the last few years, for the last few months, I believe that you have a lot of job on your head. Israel's not making it very easy.
That is correct, Lucy. And unfortunately, what we have had to do is we have had to help the Israeli government make its case. And that's what this campaign that we are involved in is all about. The campaign is called Legal Grounds. And it arose because we noticed that there was a real problem with our leadership here making its case, and we hope that with this campaign we can help the government here make its case.
So what is exactly the case?
Well, the case that it had been making up until I would say about 20 years ago, was that we had not only a claim and we not only had title in areas, in the disputed areas like Judea, Samaria, the West Bank, but we had a superior claim and we had superior title to those areas. That all of a sudden, or maybe I should say progressively, became weaker and weaker, and so we felt, my organization and others who advocate for Israel, that Israel should speak out more resonantly about its legal rights in those areas.
You know, Zionism became maybe, let's say, in a way, a curse to a lot of people. How do you change the perspective on this word, Zionism?
Mm-hmm. It's a very good question, and it really begs a long answer, but I think what has happened here is because over the last 20 years we have failed to make our case, we have left a vacuum, a space, so to speak, for the BDSers and others to fill that vacuum with our delegitimization. And what we have got to do now is we have got to reclaim that space and start to make our case. And what happened, Lucy, was back in July of 2012, something called the Levy Report was issued by the government here. There were 3 eminent jurists led by Supreme Court Justice Edmund Levy that issued a report. It was called, it came to be called the Levy Report. It was called Building in Judea and Samaria, and or the status of building in Judea and Samaria, actually. And what it found was that the situation there is what we call sui generis. That means that it is unique, one of a kind, that there are no precedents for this. There are no current situations that match the situation there, not the Turkish occupation of northern Cyprus, not the Moroccan occupation of Western Sahara. It is unique.
You know, it is unique by what? By Israel really occupying the West Bank? Because this is the truth. Even the Israelis recognize the fact that Israel is occupying the West Bank. And Israel knows that in a certain point, it will have to get out of there. So how come it's unique?
Well, it's unique because
it's trying to maybe portray a different reality.
I get that, and really what the Levy Report found was that this did not constitute a belligerent occupation for any number of reasons, because according to the legal...
Palestinians may disagree on that.
I'm sure the Palestinians would disagree with that.
A lot of people who go and spend some time in the West Bank may disagree with you on that. I even disagree with you on that.
Actually, I spend quite a bit of time in the West Bank, and the situation as we understand it from the Levy Report the results, the conclusions of the Levy report is that this does not constitute a belligerent occupation. Why? Because those territories were not acquired from a sovereign, from what they call a high contracting party. It was acquired in a defensive war, and the party that occupied it before, Jordan, captured those areas in a war of aggression in 1948 and did not hold claim to that area. You can't have an occupation, Lucy, without there being a sovereign party beforehand that had a legal right to that territory.
You're talking about one report in the international law and the international community and the people, and even, even rightists in Israel agree on the fact that Israel is occupying the West Bank. But what do you suggest to do?
Okay.
Do you suggest that it will be one country that will include Palestinians and Jewish Arabs under one government? And by this, you're basically having a big risk that the Jewish country will actually disappear.
So my answer to that, based on my position as the co-chair, along with my co-chair Arlene Kushner, also an eminent journalist, is that we do not take a political position. We are all about the facts. And yes, you are right, there are some that will claim that this is an occupation. What we find are the facts bear out that this is not. It cannot be defined, legally speaking, by international legal standards as an occupation. Therefore, we are agnostic in terms of what the final disposition of this territory should be. There should be somebody who advocates for a Palestinian state who could just as well join our campaign, as well as somebody who might be against withdrawal. My personal position does not enter into this at all. It is purely a campaign in order to get the Israeli government to once again speak out on behalf of its legal rights.
On days that we're talking about the U.S.-Israel alliance, which is very important to Israel and to the United States, and I started this interview by saying that Israel is not doing a very easy job for your job. Mm-hmm. It seems that even you are not doing a very easy job for the United States. How do you convince them that what they are telling Israel to do is actually not true?
That's a great question again, Lucy. And the fact of the matter is that when I go over, and I was just over in the United States, I spent the better part of a week on Capitol Hill. And what I hear very often after meetings with members of Congress, congressmen and senators, as they are walking me to the door is, Jeff, we are in 100% agreement with you. And this, by the way, Lucy, is for things, let's say, like funding joint coexistence projects in the West Bank, Judea, and Samaria, both for Palestinian Arabs and for the Jewish community there. They say, we can't be more Christian or more Catholic than the Pope. We can't be more Zionist than the Prime Minister of Israel. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to get the Israeli government and the Israeli populace to understand what their legal rights are, what their claims are, what their title is, and then speak out once again, as they did back in the 1970s and 1980s. I just want to draw your attention to one poll that was conducted by New Wave back in October 2013, and this is why this is so important. In this poll, they asked Israelis, number one, whether they were for or against the settlement enterprise. They took the subgroup that was against the settlement enterprise, and they asked them a second question. They asked them if this is, let's say, internationally recognized as legal, would you change your mind? 33%, only 33% said no.
Mr. Jeff Daube, thank you very much for coming and for giving me the recognition that I'm asking good questions. Thank you very much for coming to the studio, and thank you for being with us tonight. Tomorrow we will be here, our viewers, at the same time, same place, from the Jaffa Port. Have a great night.